Hey everybody, Kevin here with another episode for you for the Real Estate Without Renters podcast. Thanks as always for listening to the show, recommending it. If you belong to a meetup group, real estate investment club, note investment club, anything like that, please recommend the show. And if you do like the show, please give me a nice 5-star rating on there. It is helpful, allows me to bring on great guests like we have for you today. Before I introduce our guest, let me tell you this, when you have a podcast and you do enough episodes, at some point in time, you do start to get emails from people saying, hey, so-and-so should be on your show and that sort of thing. And a lot of times it's just not a right fit. And I got an email recently introducing our guest today. And that was probably the fastest one I've ever responded to and said, yeah, I want to get him on because in the note business, as you know, a big part of what we do when it comes to non-performing loans is to help people stay in their homes. Nobody gets in the business I'm in. Nobody gets in note investing to foreclose on somebody. We would much rather work with people, but the problem always becomes most people in that situation have never been in that before. And they lack knowledge as to what to do, and they have a tendency just to clam up and not do anything. And that's the worst thing that someone can do. So I was really interested in a new nonprofit that our guest has launched here. And I think it's great because I think it will help people. They start to realize that, lenders or note buyers in my case are not the bad guy. We want to work with you, but we have to hear from you to do that. So that'll be a big topic that we're going to talk about today. Before we jump right into that, I want to thank my sponsors, Noteworthy. So Noteworthy is a national event for the note industry. And we've got an event scheduled for Phoenix, Arizona, coming up in 2025. And I should have that date at my fingertips, and I don't, but I will keep you posted on that date if I find it here. But it's going to be in February. It's going to be in Phoenix, and we're going to have some sponsors there. It's going to be a good time. We're going to start posting all of those things out as well. So if you're in the industry, great. It's a good event to network, meet other people. We'll have some vendors there as well. If you are new to the industry and you want to get more involved, see what else is out there, interact with other people who are making money in the business, it's a great thing to get to too. So I'll have discount codes and everything else for you so that's very, very reasonable for you to attend that event in February with Noteworthy. So thank you, Noteworthy, for that sponsorship. So let me introduce my guest here. We've got him sitting on the side there. So Michael Russell is an award-winning Century 21 agency owner and broker. He's been through not only ups and downs in real estate, but ups and downs in life financially, and came back and now he's giving back through a newly launched nonprofit entity called Hope for Hardship. And it's designed around just that, helping people avoid foreclosure by educating them on what they can and cannot do. And I think it's a great service. So Michael, welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. Honored to be here.
Yeah. I love the service, and obviously, you heard what I said in the beginning there. But has that been
Yeah.
your experience too, where you have people who are in trouble and they don't know what to do, so they just say, "I'll just avoid it," and that becomes the worst
Yeah.
thing that they can do.
Sure, man. It's the human condition, right? It's the human condition.
Yeah,
This is what happens, when we fall into financial struggle. The entity that is actually our biggest ally is the one we avoid. And that's just basic human condition. It's fear-based. I think people are afraid to talk to the very entity that is threatening our livelihood and our housing, so they don't pick up the phone and call. And that's the reality of it. And that can go on an extended period of time. But I think it's just
yeah,
human condition stuff. If anything I've learned in my life is that if you stopped paying your mortgage, there's a tremendously strong possibility that you stopped paying a whole bunch of stuff before that.
yep,
Typically your mortgage is the last bill you stop paying except for your cell phone.
right,
And so I think that and the really the inalienable truth here is if you are facing foreclosure, you have many other pressing issues in your life that make it challenging for you to focus and compartmentalize on the problem of your housing.
right. I
Yeah.
100% concur. In my experience over 30 years in this business, thankfully, I've never had to foreclose on anybody, but I've had to threaten it. And the only reason I had to threaten it is because they wouldn't respond to anything else.
Sure.
So it finally gets down that road where it's like, well, I guess we'll have to start the foreclosure process, and at least that will get them to call. And then they call and find out that it's like, hey, we're not the bad guy. There's solutions that we
Sure.
can provide. Maybe not all of them are 100% optimal for you, but it's better than going through the foreclosure process. And there's a lot of things. But I also agree with you a lot. When I do state of the industry addresses in for this industry, I've told people for years, I said it's a buildup when somebody gets to a point they're not making their mortgage payment. And I always look at a precursor as it starts with the credit card debt, right? We see credit card debt go up. We see the delinquencies on credit card go up. Then I look at automobiles, same trajectory. And then I say mortgages are next. That's the next domino that's going to fall if this trend continues. So you concur with my thoughts on that. So let's paint a scenario here. Now, what I do is I buy performing notes and non-performing notes. And the non-performing notes that we buy are, and my clients who and listeners of this podcast, the non-performing notes we buy, some come from banks, some come from private lenders. When banks go through this process, banks are now selling the non-performing assets because it's typically, as you know, through Fannie Mae without getting caught into all the details of that. But Fannie Mae sells these in bulk versus foreclosing on people today. I think they're doing a better job since the Dodd-Frank Act of making people aware by promoting through banks that, hey, you better work with these folks. But the notes that we end up buying, they've already been past 90 days. Sometimes they're a year past due, and finally they're sold. And we purchase those notes and we buy them at a discount, obviously. And then what we try to do is reach out to the people and let them know that there's some solutions there. So if someone were to find you or one of my clients, what if because I teach this on a national basis, which I think you know. So if I'm teaching somebody, is it something where we can direct them to Hope for Hardship, where maybe a third party can talk to them and maybe there's a solution there because they still kind of look at us as the bad guy lender. And maybe if you're talking to a nonprofit, that's a third party that says,
Sure.
hey, they do have solutions. You need to talk to them. Is that something that you see?
Absolutely. That's something I would absolutely adore if we create a relationship like that. Look, I've been in and around the real estate business like you for 27 years, my whole adult life, really. Since 19, I've been doing this and owned and operated a real estate firm. And so where this really started for me was just observing the human behaviors and emotions related to the real estate transaction. You have people who are elated, first-time home buyers, people leveling up, real estate investors doing well. But then what really stuck to me was the sad emotions that come in real estate, death, divorce, disaster as common causes for selling real estate. And I worked for Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and multiple banks over the years, sold thousands, in the downturn of foreclosed assets. And I'd have to go out there and witness lockouts where a box truck shows up with a sheriff and two movers, and they knock on the door and say, you have an hour to take anything you want, put it in the truck, we'll store it for 30 days, and then we're changing the locks when we leave.
Yeah.
And so those things really always stuck out to me. But what really made me do this was my own personal experience with this. I faced foreclosure, corporate bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, had to short sale some properties. And the collateral damage that ripped through my family as a result of that lasted the better part of a decade to clear. And so the only reason I'm here is because of my own personal turnaround, both financially and in life. And what keeps me around is the reward I get by helping bearing witness to and playing a small role in the turnaround of other people. Because witnessing that in people and being able to play a role in someone's life where they can end up in a better position than I could have is tremendously rewarding to me. And really, it helps my healing process over the course of my life. And so that kind of work that you're talking about is exactly what I do. And I think you're right. A third party without an interest in any fashion, but to help someone turn their lives around. Look, there's a truth in this, right? There's no bank in America that wants to foreclose on a property. and there's no homeowner in America that wants to be foreclosed on. Those are truths nationwide. And so there's no reason that an organization like mine can't come in. And really, if I'm being honest, what the vast majority of the work I do is I help people get out of their own way. Because that's what we are when we face these problems. We are largely in our own way. I will say that 80+% of the people that I communicate with, this was avoidable. This was avoidable through a better, stronger, healthier decision-making paradigm. Period. Stop. Now, are all these people ready to acknowledge that? No. And that's where I find great joy is I like helping people get people from a place of denial to a place of accepting reality and taking proactive actions to take the steps. So yeah, I would be honored to do that. Look, it's really simple, right? There are retention and non-retention options when you fall behind on collateralized debt in America, whatever it is, car, boat, house, collateralized debt. The lender wants to offer you, wants to assist in either helping you retain the asset or helping you in a non-retention option. And I'm well versed in all of those. And and that just comes from the experience of being in and around real estate for 30 years. Like this stuff's relatively simple to me. It's not to the average consumer, but really I can't stress it enough. What I like doing is seeing the turnaround in people. That's tremendously rewarding to me.
And I would say also, which I'm sure that you do, but I want to ask you about this. Of course, you've got the Hope for the letter for, by the way, hope for hardship.org website, and it looks pretty darn easy to navigate. The phone numbers are readily available because I do think on something like this, you have to keep it absolutely simple, and you have it under a nonprofit. And I've read on there that if someone's in trouble and they need help, they can go to the website or they can call the phone number and talk with someone, and there's no cost to that.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. My nonprofit will never charge you for anything in this assistance.
I mean, that's easy. And that's something that I think people would be or should be open to doing. And it would be a great resource, because I think we're in line with this, because we do workouts with people all the time. So the conversations that you or your staff at the nonprofit would have would probably generally go down the line of inquire what the person's thinking about, what they're looking to do, and then starting going down a list of services. Could you kind of give us a scenario like that?
Yeah, sure.
Someone calls are in trouble? Yeah.
It all starts with tell me a story.
Yeah.
That's the most common thing I say, right? Tell me a story. Tell me what's going on with you. Get me a better idea of what it is. And then it becomes a function of a simple intake process, because every lender will offer an application for assistance in some fashion. And they're all different, but they're all similar. And it's a simple function of income, assets, expenses. That's what this application is. And so you put that together along with supporting documentation, which is typically a couple months bank statements, some recent pay stubs, any other, whatever your income source is, collating that data and submitting it into the lender. And then really, I think most of the people I meet have tried this, right? There are certainly some that were, like me at my worst, 2 years of unopened mail on my dining room table. There are those people in the world for sure. But a lot of people have opened some of that mail and tried the assistance. And I'll tell you, the most common thing about assistance application is missing documentation. And the lender, believing, rightfully, that it's not their job to chase the consumer, they don't either notify them or they notify them once and the consumer misses it. And so what my team and I do is, every 3 business days, we touch base with the bank looking for a status update. Is everything okay? Is the documentation complete? What I've learned about these assistance applications is they need to be certified complete by the lender in order for them to send it to underwriting to review the application and then spit out a results or a decision letter letting the consumer know, here are your options for either retention or non-retention. And so it's the stick-to-itiveness, it's staying on top of these guys regularly that I think most consumers just don't do. They fill out an application, they send it in, I don't even know if I've ever submitted an application that wasn't missing documentation in some fashion. They they always are. They want an additional thing, or there's a transfer into the bank account from another bank account ending in this four digits. Okay, now we need that bank. Whatever it is, as you know, it's not a forensic audit, but I think over the years, banks have gotten better at reading and assessing and identify the specifics of the applications. And so that's really where it starts. The goal is get to a decision by the lender, where they then put out some options for you. And then it's consulting over what those options are and which ones are the best ones based on my experience.
Wow. So you're a lot more proactive than I was imagining. So this is above and beyond a phone conversation of what your options are. This is you guys actually directing them and saying, here's what we got to do, putting together a plan, and
Yeah.
then reaching out to that lender. And well, that's incredible. And even the follow-up on trying to provide that information to the lender so the lender can assess, well, here's what we can do. We can do a forbearance, or maybe we can do a temporary loan mod to lower your payment. Was it a rough patch in life and now you're working again? That's what you meant by the story, obviously, is like what's the scenario, so we know what to work with. A hardship letter, as we know it.
Sure. Yeah.
And because your things happen, right? As you said, job losses, medical bills, I mean, divorces, I mean, these things happen. So that's great. I mean, that's going above and beyond. I really didn't realize it went that far. And I think in our industry, and if you haven't tapped into our industry, because it's still considered a niche, even though it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, it does kind of fly under most people's radar. The great thing about us and as private note owners is we are the bank.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a servicing company, that collects the payments. They'll be the ones to send out 30-day late, 60 days late, 90 days late. At 90 days late, they come to us and say, what are we doing? We send it out a demand letter. Are we getting an attorney to initiate foreclosure? So that's kind of where our trajectory starts to go, where we guide them in this. And I could easily see a service like yours being in a demand letter from these servicing companies. Say, look, we can talk with us, or if you prefer to talk, with a third party nonprofit organization on this, here's their information as well. Because with us, unlike you're dealing with banks, we are the bank, as I said, so we make the decision. It's not, you don't have layers of bureaucracy and all that to get to. It's basically, I paid, or my listeners have paid their hard-earned money to buy this loan. They want to get their money back. They want to, obviously there's still a profit motivation for that, but we also ultimately want the person to start paying again. So how do we get them to that point? And we can make decisions a heck of a lot faster than trying to go through any kind of organization where, the frustration is always, who's the decision maker, right? It's like, where do we get to the decision maker? Sure. Going through the bank with us, we're right there. We are one step away from the servicing company to make that decision. And we had, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, the Homeowner Financial Assistance Program.
Yeah.
It's still only available now in a few states, but it's one of these great programs that the government created. They sunk $10 billion into it, but how many consumers really knew about it?
We got so many people through that mass half program, but man, they ran out of funding.
Exactly.
And it was relatively simple. And towards the end, they'd pay up to $50,000 in arrearage, and that changed. And that's really what I look to do. Is I like to be a positive inflection point in someone's lifeline where I change the trajectory in a positive way.
Yeah.
And that isn't always who I was.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to me today. I really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
you know the deal, right? It's look, if it's a portfolio note, your options are supremely limited. Most portfolio notes that I deal with, I end up talking to a VP at a bank or something, and he's like, "Yeah, you got options, reinstate it." It's really about how that goes. Okay. Now, look, if it's Fannie,
catch up,
Freddie,
just catch up with the money. That's all.
If it's out in the secondary market,
Yeah.
man, you get so many bites at the apple.
Yeah.
You get so many bites at the apple. And listen, the most beautiful thing in the secondary market is a partial claim mortgage, where they'll take the arrearage, tack it onto the back end at 0%, no payments due until either the maturity of the original note or you sell the property, of course. But that time frame appears to be limited. You know, you can only be so many months. Like 310 days seems to be the sweet spot with most. If you're less than 310 days behind, they'll entertain it. And so it's kind of a balancing act. And look, how would a consumer know any of this stuff? It would never happen. And so it's kind of a unique blend. You know, obviously I conjured up a lot of experience, you know, being in this business my whole life. And personally, I just got to a place where paying it forward became really important to me. And this just happens to be the useless information that's in my brain that I can use to help people pay it forward to maybe turn their life around. And
Yeah, 100%.
You as a bank too, you don't want to foreclose. You as a bank or any bank, what they prefer is that they resume their normal payments.
Right.
They turn things around, they resume their normal payments. That's what everyone prefers. And a lot of these people absolutely can do that. Most of these hardships are temporary in nature. But you know, that arrearage is scary. When your mortgage statement used to show up with $1,321 due at the top right-hand corner, and now it says $27,865, you're tapping out.
Yeah.
Tapping out.
That's demoralizing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's something the consumer thinks about 24/7, you know, and it affects every aspect of their life. How could it not? It's always there hovering over you. And
the hardest thing I think for any human being to cope with is uncertainty.
Yeah.
And these kind of things are riddled with that.
Yeah, 100%. We buy performing notes, and as smart investors, of course, we're hoping for best case scenario, which is we never have to talk to the borrower, we never have to talk to the servicer, everybody just pays, and it's good. Worst case, we have to prepare for. So worst case scenario is they stop paying. And what do we do? And so many of the loans that we buy today, property values have gone up tremendously, and there's a ton of equity on that. And I look at it and go, there's no way you're going to end up with this house in a foreclosure sale, because if they were smart, if they were informed, they'd sell this house before it gets to the foreclosure sale, walk away without a foreclosure, walk away with some capital, and move on with their lives. And sometimes I'm sure you've had to tell that to clients as well and say, look, your best option, sell your house. You got all this equity, you know, tap out, move along, save your credit, save all these other things. Yeah.
It's never in the history of real estate, to my knowledge, has this happened before. Because of this unreasonable, frankly, and unrealistic appreciation schedule that we're on in real estate values, right? You can literally, I'm not recommending this, you can literally not pay your mortgage for 3 years, sell and walk away with a bag. That has never happened in real estate. If you don't pay your mortgage for 2 or 3 years, you have negative equity historically.
Right.
But today, and that happens, you know, a lot of these people end up having to sell their property. There are no retention options. And the non-retention options, you know, it's really a small list. Bank assisted is deed in lieu or short sale. Nothing's short sale anymore. I think we had 2 short sales this year. Going back 08, 09, we'd do 100 a year. And so short sales just aren't realistic.
Yeah.
So these people are able to sell, maximize return on the asset by leveraging demand, because it's not challenging to get a distressed asset. Everyone's an investor now, and get 75 people to walk through the house, and the bidding goes up, you know, $80,000 over ask. And all of a sudden someone's walking away with $196,000 in cash, more money than they've ever had in their life. Yet they have a 3-year history of non-payment. It's amazing to believe that that's possible, but it's happening every day.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't like that as lenders. Someone wants to do anything,
right?
like
course.
that, you know. But you know, realistic, if we just peel it back, I mean, there's definitely that, and people do find out sometimes about that, but they also have to realize, if you're going to do something like you're paying some money, you got to keep an attorney on retainer or something, because a lender's not going to just sit back and fold their arms and go, well, I guess we'll have to wait until, you know, 3 years. We're going to be filing things, and there's a cost to that. And I think if people realized, hey, you know, let's exhaust everything that we can do with the lender because it'll be cheaper. You're not paying an attorney,
Yep.
especially on our side of the business. We don't need to lawyer up per se. If the
Right.
servicing company gets the person talking, whether that's with them or whether that's with you, and they
Yep.
engage in the conversation, we don't have to lawyer up and go through all that expense and everything else. I mentioned to you, I had to file foreclosure. Well, that cost me money. They have to hire somebody. That's costing them money. And then typically what happens? We come to a resolution. It's like, how about we just cut that part out of it, and
Yep.
talk with us so we can come to some kind of resolution here.
I was talking to an attorney yesterday. There's only three major law firms in Massachusetts that these banks hire, to do foreclosures.
Yeah.
And he said, believe me, I don't want to do this. He said, apparently in Springfield, the newspaper charges the bank $5,000 for the three public notices.
Wow.
I said, are you kidding me? Is that, he said, no one else does it. They charge 5 grand for the three public notices. So, I mean,
That's
hey,
all. Yeah, that doesn't seem.
no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No bank wants to foreclose, and
Yeah.
for reasons like that.
For those who don't realize what he was saying there is when you go through foreclosure, there's a process, and some states are judicial, some states are non-judicial. Most states do require that you publicize the foreclosure notice for a period of time in a paper of general circulation. And sometimes that paper of general circulation, apparently out in Western Mass, that's out Western, right? Springfield?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They figured it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they figured out, oh, well, I guess
They-
you have to do it. So we're the only one in town that does that. That sounds like an opportunity. Somebody create a little publication out there. But anyway,
And then if a
yeah,
consumer acts faster and whatever, and they work with a company like mine, then because the consumer is the one who pays that $5,000 if it doesn't get foreclosed on, and they do eventually fix it.
yeah.
That's rolled into their note.
Oh, that the cost is passed on. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like if they wait too long and allow it to get to past the soldier and sailors and to the actual foreclosure proceeding, and then they save it, they're just tacking that onto their principal balance is the bottom line.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And as a reminder, I'm talking with Michael Russell. He's an award-winning Century 21 agency owner and broker, and also has recently launched Hope for Hardship. And you can check out the website, hope, the number four, hardship.org, I believe. Let me double check that. Is that right? Or yeah,
Yes. Yep.
.org. And go through that. If you're a lender or a private note investor, I think it's worth taking a look at the site, seeing what services they offer. I think it's something that could be very, very helpful because again, I think there's from a certain percentage of people a little bit of resistance still to talk to the lender or the servicing company, the ones that have been sending them demand letters to pay. There's a little intimidation there. They know more about this, where this is more educational. And again, I'm really impressed that you help them put together packages and paperwork to send to the lenders. I mean, that's above and beyond what I would have thought for a no cost service like that, and then to do the actual follow up with them, I think is just really great. When did you start this program?
2018 when I
2000.
first
Okay, so
started
it's been
doing
a,
it.
it's been a
Yep.
little while now.
Yeah. And, for a while it was just whatever. I'm just a guy. This is
Yeah.
simple to me. There are about 85 notices of intent to foreclose recorded in Massachusetts land court every week.
Mhm.
And I always bought this data from the Warren Group or somebody. And back in 2010, there was 750 a week.
Hmm.
So it is about at the lowest I've ever seen it. And I communicate with 15 people a week. I'm able to get in touch with 15 people a week and at least begin the process. Part of my
Mhm.
struggle is they tap out, they get started. And that's part of the deal is that I try to be an effective communicator up front is, look, I can't do this alone. I need you to do this with me.
Yeah.
And it becomes challenging sometimes to keep them engaged in the process because along the way, it's that missing documentation thing. That
Sure.
missing documentation is tremendously common.
Yeah.
But look, there are, part of my struggle is when a notice of intent to foreclose, the Soldier and Sailors Act, is recorded, it becomes public record, and everyone under the sun is chasing these people. And in my experience, and I wouldn't disparage what anyone's doing, everyone's got a business model, but from where I'm standing and from what I've seen, it's vastly people, in my opinion, who are seeking to capitalize on what they perceive to be someone else's misfortune. And those companies are their attorneys, oh, you should file bankruptcy right now, which is one of the worst experiences I ever went through. And it's document prep companies, people who can't pay their mortgage. Hey, pay us $1,000 a month and we'll do this modification package for you. Yeah. And I can safely say that I'm the only guy around that will do this for nothing.
Yeah. And is this just for Massachusetts, or you can work with people?
Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and Florida will be next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I am.
Yeah.
I think it's needed everywhere. The expansion
Absolutely.
of this is probably just to kind of figure out the different foreclosure laws and such, or just a matter of bandwidth.
Yeah, sure. Right. People
expense,
process,
I guess, right?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in, people process product, man. People process product, anything scalable.
Yeah.
And the details of the state are, it's you got to start with that thing that I said. No bank wants to foreclose. No homeowner wants to get foreclosed on. Those are absolute truths across the country. The rest of it, to me, is just details.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's a definite need.
Yes.
I wish it was national. Maybe at some point it'll get there.
I'm coming, man. I'm coming.
Good. Yeah, because I think this would fit into our industry perfectly, because again, there's less paperwork on the consumer end, less bureaucracy getting to us. But I do think the third party nonprofit is an easier call to make for somebody in trouble than maybe calling the lender, the attorney who sent the letter.
Yes, there's no question, right? And look, it's because they are inundated with contacts, postcards, door visits, calls, texts. They don't trust anybody. And then the lender the lender goes in that bag, and you're right. You are mislabeled as the bad guy when you are just the one that wants the resolution just as much as they do. You really do. There's no question. Banks want this resolved just as much,
Yeah. Yeah. We would much rather, the same thought as banks. We'd much rather get the payments going then and forget and don't want the property. If we can do that, we're all happy. Well, that's awesome. I think it's a great service. Enjoyed the conversation. I hope that you can expand. If someone wants to talk with you about expansion, maybe that's a possibility too. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Call me, 508-501-9214. Call me anytime. Absolutely.
Very good. And again, if you have notes up in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and coming soon, or next, I should say, I'll use next to Florida, check out the website. Again, it's homeforhardship.org. Remember, the 4 is the letter 4. So if you have, maybe somebody who's struggling with a loan up in those areas, is a source to help them out. All they got to do is visit there, make the phone call, and look forward to hopefully expanding that. And if there's things I can help you with in Florida, like I said, I'm right here. I'm also
look forward to it, man. Yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. Yeah,
I'm doing a presentation. Part of my give back. I'm doing a presentation for the University of Central Florida coming up on the November 20th, everybody, and that's open to University of Central Florida alumni and students. And there's a lot of good charitable organizations and things like that of people who come and attend those events. So this will be an interesting concept for them to hear about. So awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on, Michael, and wish you all the success in not only this, but of course the real estate that you do, and with Century 21, one of the first companies I got my license with way back also.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, is that accidentally a Celtics hat?
No, this is a brand actually, and
no, it's not. It's a Celtics hat. No, knock it off. Come on.
Well, that thing should be green. I got to get my other color. The Celtics on here. See, I got to reach over here for that one.
Okay, good, good. You can't be a Heat fan. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, I started wearing these. I do these tip of the days when I walk around, and I started wearing these hats, and now everybody kind of recognized me with these hats. So
Yeah,
I got about 10 of them here, different colors.
nice, man.
Yeah, you got it.
Nice.
Okay,
Good stuff, man.
thanks
Good
again.
stuff. Thank
Good
you.
talking with you. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. And as always, recommending somebody else. And don't forget our sponsorship over at Noteworthy. It's noteworthyusa.com. We got an event coming up in Arizona in February, and I'll be giving you more information on that, including a discount code. So it's going to be easy and affordable for everybody to get out there. I'll be out there in person, probably speaking about 6 hours during the event. So,
Nice.
if you listen to the podcast and you like the way I teach and the way I my mannerisms in teaching this business, you certainly want to come out and see that as well. So thanks everybody. Look forward to putting another podcast together for you real soon.